Why does that mean that they're lesser than us? They're actually foreign workers coming to build the bare bones of the country.
Yes. I struggle to understand why any race would feel superior to any other race because, I've got such a diverse group of friends, and we all have the same heartaches. We all have the same pain. We all hurt when someone punches us, we hurt, and words impact us. And the only difference that I've seen with all my friends is the skin. It might be interesting because we touched a lot on women, their place in society, and just the prejudice that, society still has, whether intended or not. I think that could be a good conversation to start off with.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is that, you've got your young daughter. I've got two young daughters as well. And I just love to think of how their futures are going to look. Like, it
Yeah.
scares the hell out of me because, we've been through that ourselves. And I don't want to have to think fast forward 10 years' time. You've met Lily when she's
Yes.
20, and she's going to have to come and talk to me about, Mommy, I got rejected for this because I'm a girl or I'm a woman or,
Mm,
I'm not good enough, things like that. And I think it's starting a lot younger now as well, because I know that when I was growing up, there was none of this that I had to deal with. Maybe there was, but to a much lesser degree. But I'm feeling more and more now that, the women are starting really young. And then they start to feel that lack of self worth, that discrimination is real. Because I can share a story with the both of you. My best friend is Kenyan born. I think I told you, Em.
yes.
And she has a beautiful daughter because her husband is Kiwi. And just, was it 3 weeks ago, they had a racial incident at school
Oh.
where two boys of Indian descent basically came up and called her a bunch of really awful names.
Mm,
And being a 9-year old, she was like, I'm distraught. I don't know how to deal with that.
mm.
So that had to be escalated to the principal. And, it's a good thing that he doesn't condone any of this in the school
Oh,
whatsoever.
good.
So those conversations have had to be had. And I think the interracial discrimination is very real as well. Because when I was growing up in Singapore, there's always this awful perception that because we have a lot of workers coming in from the Philippines, from Sri Lanka, from India, they're always seen as the lesser because they are doing all the hard work. And a lot of families have domestic helpers who live with them, and they're primarily from India and the Philippines.
Mm.
So there's often this perception that the Chinese Singaporeans are the best, which I'm like, why? Because I went to school with a multicultural melting pot of other children, and we've
Mm.
never had that. We played together really well. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. We have a WhatsApp group from primary school still for the bunch of us who are really closely knit. And that's horrible stuff. But at the time when I was growing up, I was questioning it already. I'm like, why does that mean that they're lesser than us? They're
Mm.
actually foreign workers coming to build the bare bones of the country.
Yes.
Because if
Yeah.
they're not here to do the dirty work, the precious Chinese
Mm.
Singaporeans are not going to get their hands dirty to do it. So that's why I
I
don't get, it's
yeah,
like,
I
what is
Yeah,
this?
it makes you wonder at what age does that kick in? Because I
yeah.
think when children are very young, they don't see colour. They think
Yes,
that's
Mm,
my friend
absolutely.
mm,
over there and that's my other friend and
Yeah.
that one's brown and that one's not. And they might
mm,
ask the questions, why do you look different? But they
Mm,
yeah.
don't put any judgment behind that.
yeah.
And at some stage it changes. And I don't
Mm,
know, presumably they're picking things up. They're learning from parents or they're learning
Mm,
from teachers
yeah.
that there's an attitude and
Mm,
there's a
mm,
judgment then attached to differences in people. And I think maybe it's mid-primary where they start to change.
mm,
I think they start to break into their little tribes
mm,
at school, and
yeah.
there's always someone who is us and them, And of
Mm.
course,
mm.
that's unfortunately human nature. We all still tend to do that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
there's a time where that innocence is lost, and
Mm.
suddenly, yeah, they're just learning
And it's such
difference, I
a,
suppose. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, I struggle to understand why any race would feel superior to any other race because,
Mm.
I've got such a diverse group of friends, and
Mm.
we all have the same heartaches. We all have the same
Mm.
pain. We all hurt when someone punches us, we hurt, and words impact us. And the only difference that I've seen with all my friends is the skin color. And
Mm.
that's it. But attitudes, behaviors, I will see the same attitude and behavior in my white Australian friends and
Mm.
my Nigerian friends and
Mm.
it's the same. It could be one person
Yeah.
just in different skin. And yesterday, so I avoid watching the news, particularly
Mm.
certain channels, because I feel they are provocative and they provoke
Mm.
hate.
Correct.
And,
Mm.
yesterday on the rare occasion that I'm on Facebook, I was on Facebook, and unfortunately, this is again why I need to stay away from Facebook. As I was scrolling, I saw an ad by a particular bank, and it was a
Mm.
brown family, and I was
Mm.
like, "Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful!" And I have no idea why I clicked on on the comments. I should not
Mm.
have done that,
Oh,
but I
no.
did. And
Mm.
the comments were, "Oh, this is Australia, not Africa." And there was another one who posted the something going extinct is straight white couples with white
Oh.
children. And it was so nasty. And I was thinking, is this how people feel? Like
Mm.
it blows my mind. And
Mm.
I don't understand why people are
Mm.
threatened by the elevation of another race. Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't
Mm.
get it. And it makes
But
me
that,
really sad.
I know, but that was one of my points earlier. People
Mm,
fear things that are not normal or are not common.
mm, mm,
Because even with me and my husband's Dutch.
mm.
And when we go walking down the street, sometimes we get funny looks. And when I'm back home, believe this or not, people always think that I'm the gold digger because I
Oh,
married a white man.
oh my
But I'm like,
gosh.
honey, I make enough money to buy my own, to stand my own, you know? I don't hang on the hand, on the arm of a white man to prove my own worth. I earn good
Mm,
money and I'm very successful in my career and in my business. So,
yeah.
but there's always this stereotype. And it was funny because I was talking to my husband as well. One of his friends have got I think his wife is from Cuba as well, and
Mm,
he's also Dutch. And get this, the Dutch women would despise them because the Dutch women would say, "Why aren't you marrying a Dutch woman? Are we not good enough for you? Why do you have to
oh,
marry someone else from a
wow.
different culture?" So they are being looked down upon in their own Anglo-Saxon society because they've decided to marry outside of their own race. How
Wow.
crazy is that?
Mm.
We're
It's,
getting it from both sides, which is
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And it comes back to
uh,
the, we it's like if you don't look the same, speak the same, do the
mm,
same, you are different. And that's why you're over there and I'm over here.
mm.
And that segregation I can never get my head around as well. It's like telling boys they need to always be rough and tough and tumble,
Yes.
and girls always have to be bubbled up in cotton wool.
Mm,
And I always hear, even passing comments from school pickups and stuff.
mm.
Girls shouldn't do this, boys shouldn't do that. And it was really funny when my daughters were growing up, they were hanging out with a little boy. Friends of ours from Sydney have a little boy, and he used to come over to our house for play dates, and he would dress up as princesses and things, which I thought was very cute. And then the dad was
Yeah.
like, "Don't do that. Boys don't do dress ups.
Yeah.
Boys
And
don't
there it
do
is.
that."
Yeah. Mm.
That's where it
Back to
starts.
Sandra's point about where it starts, I think it starts from when they start to cognitively take in information and they
Mm,
go, okay, daddy told me boys shouldn't be wearing dresses and ballerina shoes and prancing around
mm.
because that's not manly. And then girls would be like, don't do the rough and tumble because that's not what girls do. And then they start to grow up with that stereotype of if I am a girl, I have to be a certain way. And if I am a boy,
Mm,
I've got to be a certain way. And I think that's
mm.
really sad. This is from like what the early ages where there were kings and princes and princesses.
Do you know
I'm
what?
surprised it
I,
hasn't changed. I
We
mean, this
haven't
this
evolved.
sounds like when I was growing up in the 70s, I would have
Mm,
expected that. But I'm surprised that you've got kids who are growing up this century and they're still experiencing the same
mm,
thing. I
yeah.
thought we had at least taken a few steps, but obviously it's two
Uh,
forwards and one back.
yeah.
I
So
always
it
feel
seems.
like we do take a few steps forward, then something just happens and people's true nature comes out.
Mm,
And you know, one thing that I cannot wrap my head around is the, you know, you touched on dressing.
mm,
And if I wear pants,
mm,
if I wear a suit,
mm.
I am too masculine and
Yeah.
you know, people will, it's like a power, people will call it a power suit, right? And people have a different reaction to that. If a man wears a dress, for example, there are all sorts of names. And I think it goes back to what you said earlier about how in society, there's a conditioning that happens,
Mm,
and anything that is not familiar or
mm,
that's not comfortable, that's a little bit too different,
mm,
it gets us uncomfortable and we
mm.
attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like we attack.
Take
Yeah.
what you
And
don't understand. I mean,
yeah,
it's like homophobia.
Mm,
yes,
What harm is someone going to do to you if they love someone
yeah.
of the same gender?
Mm,
What how I don't understand that aggression. It's I've seen it's mostly sort of middle to late aged men in
mm,
mm,
particular
yeah.
are very tolerant of gay
Mm,
men, you know, and I was sort of thinking, my husband says the same thing. Well, what do you think, you're going to be attractive to them, are you? You know, why do you think it's a threat? You know, then why do
yeah.
you think they're going to be interested in you?
Mm,
You know, they must
yeah.
have tickets on, but they don't get threatened by women.
Mm, that's right.
I don't
that's an
understand.
interesting one. Do
Mm,
you know what this reminds me of, Sandra? It reminds me of, again, I want to really touch on that conditioning and anything that's different. People get a little bit uncomfortable. There's something about if someone is a bit much, we want, there's this thing in in humans that we want to bring them down to a level. I
Yeah,
yeah.
don't know why,
the
but we
tall
want to
poppy.
bring them down to a
Mm,
level. There was this article I read about a famous musician. I absolutely love. I don't know any of her songs, but I love how full of life she is.
mm,
And there was an article that was describing why people don't like her. And this article was talking about how she's just too happy. And instead of just saying yes, she'll go, you know, I've been debating, and then she'll say yes eventually. And Australians don't like that. They don't like that. Be normal. And I thought, what is normal?
yeah. Well, like, everyone has a different perception of normal, right?
Absolutely.
My perception of normal is different from yours, is different from Sandra's, but
Hmm.
that's the thing, like people like us are wired a bit differently, and I think that's why
Yes.
we're attracted to being entrepreneurs, because as an entrepreneur, you do have to think differently. You've got to challenge
Mm.
things. You've got to, basically say BS to the rules, and go, no, I'm not going to conform to that. I want to do something else. I want to make a difference. I want to make an
Yeah.
impact. And I've always had that curiosity in me when I was a little kid. I was brought up in Christian school. I went to Christian school, but I kept challenging. I kept going up to the pastor asking him, why does the Bible say this? Why does the Bible say that?
Mm.
But it's because I have got lots of questions. I'm like, well, if everyone is made in God's image,
Yeah.
why is he against homosexuals, for example?
Mm.
Yep.
That I don't get.
Mm.
So there's a lot of things that I was questioning from a religious standpoint as well. And I think a lot of people don't like that because they go, don't ask
You're not
questions.
conforming, Ali. You're not
Oh yeah,
conforming.
and
You're messing with my little bubble that I'm in, and I
then
don't
they
like
get really
expanding it.
uncomfortable. Yeah, they like
So we
people
will
get
shut you down and make ourselves more
yeah.
comfortable.
I know people get really uncomfortable when you ask questions, because I was always the annoying little kid who asked questions, and I used to like get the shut And I'm like, this is my curiosity. Like, I want to know how the world works. I want to know why
Yeah.
people behave a certain way. And like for me, if I see someone different, I want to go and get to know them.
Mm.
I want to go, wow, like what makes you so colorful and flamboyant and like
Mm.
energetic and do what you do? Because I want to know, I want to
Mm.
understand.
Yep.
Whereas other people are just too scared. They go, oh, that person's too loud or too happy or too positive.
Oh.
Oh, that's not normal. Stay away.
Mm.
Someone once said to me, my energy and positivity were nauseating.
Was what?
It's
Nauseating?
nauseating.
Nauseating?
Yeah.
Really?
My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. And I was like, really?
You know what? You
Oh
should
my
have told
gosh.
that
And they just
person.
rolled their eyes. And I thought, I thought I'm glad they said that to me when at a time where I was really mature and I looked at and
Yeah.
I felt sorry for them because
Mm,
it meant there's a lake in their lives that somehow me being joyful and positive was
mm,
triggering them.
yeah.
Mm.
But that had
Yeah.
Yeah.
nothing to do with me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we
But
forget
yeah. Oh.
we if somebody attacks us, we look inwards. We don't actually tend to look at
Mm,
what's going on with them to make
Mm,
them,
yeah.
behave that way, because you can't
Yeah.
change. You can change your behaviour, but not in response to something like that. If you know what I
mm,
mean, you
Mm,
can't diminish yourself just to make
yeah.
other people feel better. But if you were in a bad place, but putting on that little bit of a happy face, that could have been quite devastating for you. I
yeah.
can imagine
Exactly.
it didn't make you feel great at the time, but it could. Words count. Words make a difference,
Oh,
and use nice ones, use pleasant ones, build people up.
Mm,
yeah.
Bring them on your journey. Don't try and put them down so that you're just that little bit. You can stay where you are if everyone else is there.
mm,
Let's all jump, take a few rungs up the ladder, and all go together. Doesn't
yeah.
sound difficult,
That's
does
it.
it?
Yeah. Like so many people have baggage, right? Like, but
Mm,
a lot of the times where people react to you negatively, it's because they've got baggage, like what you said, Sandra.
mm,
And, like we are not here to, solve other people's baggages. We're here to show them the way. But really, at the end of the day, if they're so fixated on being the victim all the time, and in my coaching, I talk a lot about mindset because a lot of us gradually just default to victim mindset. We
mm,
start going the why me, why me, why me, whereas we're not, aren't like questioning ourselves. Why do we land up here? Because I'm always a believer that we co-create our own lives. So if you're in a situation that you don't like, you have the full power to get out of it. But our brains are naturally addicted to drama. It is. Our brains, we are just naturally attracted to drama. So that's why you see a lot of people go through broken relationship after broken relationship and
mm,
they cannot break that cycle unless they fix this because they're just naturally attracted to drama.
mm.
And the moment you try and shift your neural pathways to go, I want to go that way instead of the trodden path that I'm very familiar. It's like driving, right? Like you always take the same way to do school drop off. But lo and behold, there's a
Mm.
traffic jam and oh, you've got to go the other way. You go ding 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 out here. And then your mind just goes, oh, now I've got to use it and do that. But that's why your reptilian brain, I'm very into brain stuff by the way.
Yeah.
Your
I love
reptilian
it.
brain is always there to keep you safe.
Yeah, true.
So if you don't know how to break that, you just always gonna be finding yourself in the same situation that you're trying to get yourself
Mm,
out of.
mm.
It's like
I love
quicksand.
that.
No matter how much you try and struggle, you're gonna get sucked in deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're never gonna get out of it. So, and it's so sad and unfortunate that a lot of people just end up, on their deathbeds with exactly where they were from, and it made them so unhappy, and they couldn't live the life that they always wanted because of that. Just so addicted to drama, just so used to the way things are going that they refuse to look that, hey, there's another path over there that you could have taken.
Mm,
But you chose to keep going on that familiar path and you're like, I'm too scared to even look that way.
And expecting things to change when you're
Yes.
doing this, which is Einstein said that was the definition of insanity, didn't he? Just
Mm.
doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
true.
And you can't expect to do different things, and you can't expect to not do something and then expect things to change, because change
Mm,
happens. And you can't project your baggages on other people. Like
mm,
why are you so happy all the time?
yeah. Like,
It's
what
like,
has
well, I
that got
can
to
be
do?
happy.
Yes.
Why did that person who said that to you choose not to be happy, but instead projected that resentment onto you?
Mm,
You have got absolutely nothing to do with him or her feeling that way. They chose
exactly.
to feel that way. But they have to have the self-awareness to go, well, I'm not happy. I need to do something about this, not be angry at M who's happy and
Mm.
positive.
Oh my
People
gosh.
are
So
very interesting.
I think if there's one thing that I've learned in our conversation today is, in a world, to quote a very famous author, in a world where you can be anything, be kind.
Mm,
And through me mispronouncing certain words that I shall not repeat, and through just talking about the impact that words have, the impact that hate and not being inclusive has, it's just not worth it. Think of it this way: how much better would our world become if we just learned to practice a
mm,
little bit of empathy every single time,
yeah.
instead of judgment?
Mm.
Instead of judgment. Well, this has been a great
Has been great.
conversation. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Sandra, for joining. And if you've got any contribution towards what we've spoken about today, feel free to send us an email.